Hey, today is July 7th. Welcome on into Daily Cards Live here on ClaimsOnline.com, brought to you by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Royal Banks of Missouri. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Matt Rocchio. Rock, I don't know what to say at this point. It's been the toughest stretch of the season. It's been a week long. I don't know how to assess this team as they look to avoid being swept in a 4-game series by the Braves and return back to St. Louis. Something's got to give at some point.
I mean, this is what they look like against a good team where the roster is currently. And I think that's the takeaway. And I think there's a reason that the conversations around the need for at least second or third start before the deadline has increased by, exponentially over the last 4 days because of that. And I also think, you add on to that, they've gone from second in Major League Baseball with, batting average, running in scoring position. They've dropped down to 10th over the last 6 games because they've gone 3 for 26 with runners in scoring position. Heck, that's over the last 6 games. And the one game where they actually scored some runs in that 6-game stretch where they've gone 1-5, they went 1 for 11 runners in scoring position, the one win when they actually put up numbers. And so the team is failing to do what got them here in the first place, or got them this far in the first place, and they haven't gotten any better from that point pitching-wise. In fact, they've gotten worse. And when they go up against a team that's red hot like the Braves are, you're not going to win many baseball games.
Yeah, last night you saw Miles Michaelis go out there, and what has hurt him recently in the games that he has lost has been the long ball. He has gotten a lot of outs. He has held opponents to a low number of runs. He has given up. We've seen it in the past few, not the last start, but the 2 starts, his 2 losses prior to that. You saw that he gave up home runs that cost him the team a win. And outside of those home runs, he was pretty much spotless in those starts. And last night he gives up back-to-back home runs. And when the team scoring 0 runs, just one of those home runs was all the Braves needed last night. So still a quality start out of Miles Michaelis, but nonetheless, the offense, I guess, is the question here. But tonight it goes back to Matthew Liberatore. And I think it is a little revealing what the Cardinals think of Matthew Liberatore at the moment, because the general consensus before the game was that Genesis Cabrera was going to be activated for tonight's game. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals did not activate Genesis Cabrera because if you activate him tonight, somebody's got to go down. This seems to be Matthew Liberatore's final chance, maybe for the season, to stick with this rotation and to stick with this team, because if he has a bad game tonight, he's the one heading back to Memphis. I think over probably James Nail. I would assume, based on what we were told the other day with Packy Naughton. I think that would be, and I think that's how I see things playing out tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a good read. Yeah, Liberatore, he's got to show something in this start so he can consistently be, even a back of the rotation Major League Baseball starter for them. He's got to find the strike zone. He's got to strike out some batters. He's got to keep the ball on the ground. Obviously, play to this defense. I also think it's really indicative of where the Cardinals are. Is that for a minute it looked like there was a chance that Steven Matz, instead of starting tonight in the minors, might have started tonight for the Cardinals. And as somebody who was very negative about pushing Flaherty up a month ago, any idea of pushing a pitcher forward right now to the Cardinals seems terrible. I'm saying, be patient and be cautious. And so I'm glad we're going to see Liberatore. I'm glad we're going to see one more chance there, just for the potential of what might happen for that roster spot. But also, I'm glad we're not going to see Steven Matz, and they're going to let that breathe for another, at least one more rotation.
Yeah, and I think you would expect him to get that. I think regardless, I think he starts during this 10-game homestand. Steven Matz, as long as things go fine tonight and there's no injuries, it's just a matter of, do they go with the 6-man rotation and keep Liberatore up here, or do they have him Matz come up and take a roster spot from somebody else? So that's another look at what to expect out of the roster for tonight. Yeah.
Is Newbar still up?
Newbar's still with the roster. Yeah, he's still with the team.
Yeah, with the way they've been playing Capel, I wonder if they would go Newbar and just go kind of skinnier on the bench, just so they give them flexibility with where the pitching staff's been at over the last week.
Yeah, Newbar actually is starting in tonight's game. Here are your lineups. It's Matthew Libator against Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider. Brendan Donovan leads off, and he plays third base. Juan Yepes is in right field. Paul Goldschmidt at first. Nolan Arenado DHing. Nolan Gorman is at second. Lars Nootbaar in center. Connor Capel in left. Edmundo Sosa at short. And Austin Romine is behind the plate. For the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. in right. Dansby Swanson in center. Matt Olson at first. Austin Riley at third. Travis d'Arnaud is behind the plate. Marcelo Zuna DHing. Adam Duvall is in left. Orlando Arcia is at second, and Michael Harris II is in center field. So for the second, so you're seeing Tommy Edman get a day off. The second time this week, you're seeing Brendan Donovan in the leadoff spot for the Cardinals, which I don't think this team makes a deep run in the postseason with Brendan Donovan leading off. I think you need to have Tommy Edman leading off with Brendan Donovan hitting second or fifth, depending on whatever they decide to do with that lineup. And right now, that second spot in the lineup seems to be, I thought it was just a 3-man rotation between Donovan, Gorman, and Carlson, but now this is also the second time this week we're seeing Yepes batting second in the lineup. So they're looking for that spark in front of their two All-Stars.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense what we've seen. If you're going to give Edman the time off, give Brendan Donovan the look there. The one thing I will point out is that Donovan's had a pretty bad stretch. As the offense has gone, so has his bat. He's batting sub 200 across his last 10 or 12 games. We talked about it, I think, yesterday, Tommy Edman, his struggles sub 200 over his last 20 games or so at this point. And so I just wonder if it in a long stretch where you're not going to get a lot of days off and you kind of have to massage it as you go into the All-Star break, I just wonder if we're just seeing Ali Marmol kind of just take a different approach to things that we're not going to see really for the rest of the year afterwards.
Yeah, that's after today, they come home for a 10-game stretch leading up to the All-Star break. And I think many of us would expect to see Tyler O'Neill also in the lineup, probably tomorrow night as well, as he will he gets the night off in Memphis tonight, so he can make his way back to St. Louis, and the plan is for him to be activated tomorrow. So there you go again. I mean, that's we talk that if you are activating Cabrera, Matz, and O'Neill here in the next couple of days, and the team also is hoping that Harrison Bader is back by the All-Star break too. That I think that you look at now, you have to figure out 4 guys that are going to be sent down, and then but TJ McFarland, I guess still he hasn't been activated yet. So that's another one that they have to figure out at some point what to do with all of these guys leading up to the All-Star break, and then during the All-Star break figure out exactly what they want to do with their roster. That includes what the future looks like for Yadier Molina, as the team today debuted the logo and new merchandise for Yadier Molina's final season with the Cardinals. I would hope somebody within the Cardinals has the sense to know that he is coming back sooner than later if they're going to announce that.
Yeah, I feel that was a little weird chunk of timing. I feel like you kind of knew at the beginning of the season that this was going to be his last hurrah, especially when Pujols came back and you were like, that kind of seems like a perfect storyline. I'm not sure why. I feel like that's like a logo we should have been seeing in May, and then not a week and not 10 to 15 days into him being injured and not even being in the country, and there being some very legitimate questions arising around what that means for the team and his future, and how are guys like Kisner and Herrera supposed to react to that and things like that. It's like there's so many weird conversations around Yachty right now that just seems like a crazy time to announce it. Where was this in April?
Right. This is yeah, this took a while to get put out there. Maybe they're still working on the Pujols one too. Hey, other Cardinal news and notes from down on the farm. We mentioned we are less than 2 weeks away from the All-Star game, And this year, the Futures game will feature two Cardinals that have not played in the Futures game before. In the past, it was Nolan Gorman. He was the last 2 years. Matthew Libator was also there in Colorado with him last year. Dylan Carlson has been there in the past. Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman, I believe, were there in 2019 in Cleveland, and then last year it was Gorman and Libator in Colorado. The Major League Baseball announced today that the Futures game, the two Cardinals on the roster. Not every team gets two. So this shows you how where they stand right now. Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn have both been selected to play in the 2022 SiriusXM All-Star Futures game. This year, it's on Saturday before the All-Star game, not the Sunday before the All-Star game. They've extended the weekend, which for media that's attending really is a pain in the ass. If I could just stand on my soapbox here for a second. Yeah, I'm going to miss that this year, and I'm a little bummed about it.
Speaking of a Mason Wynn, conversations around trading a pitcher have kind of popped up today, and the conversations went from they're going to need to bring somebody in somebody who can start playoff games for them, and so the conversation is now obviously changed to how do you get that kind of player. I think it makes sense that Jordan Walker, where he's at right now, the jumps he's made, is in an untouchable stance, but Mason Wynn is a guy who is an incredible prospect with a really interesting story. And the fact that he can, whip it 97 on a show from short to first is freaking incredible. And the scout grades already have him as a maxed out arm strength. But in a time when offense is still so important, is Mason Wynn an untouchable prospect for this organization? Do you think?
Who are we talking about trading for?
I'm talking.
I think that's where the question is. I think.
Yeah, okay. And here's the qualifier. This is how Buster Olney said a National League executive would. This is how he phrased what the Cardinals should be attacking. A guy who can start game 1 or 2 of a playoff series for you. That's the level that he thinks they should be going for, and would use one of their prospects to attack.
All right, so and I know that recently on with Claves, he has mentioned that for a guy at the level of a Frankie Montas, you would need to trade a AAA prospect, a AA prospect, and a single A prospect for that. I guess it matters where you value them, because right now both of those guys are AA prospects. But they are top tier prospects right now. So yeah. I think it depends on where you go for that. Another name out there would be a guy like a Madison Bumgarner. You're not giving up those two names for someone like Madison Bumgarner. That is not the Cardinals are not going to risk their future for a guy that isn't getting the job done in Arizona right now. So I think that's where, and I don't know if there's another name out there pitching wise as big as Frankie Montas that the Cardinals could go out and acquire.
Okay. Well, again, I made a reference to it earlier this week about how it's unfortunate how everyone's going to be getting traded from the Cubs and the Reds. Is that it's Luis Castillo, and it's because it's the Reds, you might have to give a little bit of extra to kind of make them okay with the fact that it's in division. And I know you don't want to have to deal with Mason Wynn throwing out guys from all kinds of crazy angles for 12 years in a Reds jersey, but if it is to a level of a Luis Castillo, I just wonder if where the balance between the future and prospect and going for in a year that was hyped up as the year that they had been planning for a while, and clearly isn't shaping out to be that way right now.
I also think, too, how do you look at trading inside your division with the schedule changing the way that it will next year, too, with having less games against the division, because you will play all 29 teams during the year in some capacity, so that will take away from the 18 that you're playing inside your division. So how much stock do you put in those games in years to come, with also the extra wild card spot, too, that now there's an extra way to get into the postseason. So I don't know if that weighs as heavily as it used to. So a lot of stuff that I'm sure that Mo and Gersh have thought about in depth a lot more than you and I have here over the last 15 minutes, but we will see how that plays off over the next.
I've been throwing Mason Wynn trade balls around for 2010, maybe. You know me.
I'm sure Randy loves that in the morning when you're trading away top prospects from the Cardinals organization.
I usually don't get too trady, but when Buster Olney, John Denton, Katie Wu, and just about every other beat writer and national writer starts throwing out the names, you just got to kind of roll with the pack a little bit.
Hey, this has been another edition of Daily Cards Live, brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri and Mungenast St. Louis Acura. Also, hey, Mungenast Alton Toyota. Did you know that Mungenast Alton Toyota, they have cars that you can rent out there at Alton at 850 Homer Adams Parkway? Give Jamie Burkhardt a call out there or go to altontoyota.com. See what they have in stock that you can rent for your summer road trip and avoid the hassle of dealing with all of the big name companies out there for rental cars this summer. Again, that's altontoyota.com. He is Matt Rocchio. I'm Joe Roderick. Hopefully tomorrow we're talking about a Cardinal victory and previewing a 3-game series against the Phillies right here on Daily Cards Live. We'll see you tomorrow.
From our roots in St. Louis, Royal Banks of Missouri is branching out to continue serving you with our locations in St. Charles, Jerseyville, Granite City, and now in Hannibal, Center, and New London. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank in your community.